Don, you've had a full-time career as an experimental biologist. Natural selection is taught in high school as evolution. You say this is incorrect. Can you tell me why?
Yeah, it's true. Many textbooks just teach evolution is natural selection or natural selection is evolution. But even some prominent evolutionary biologists actually say this is wrong. And Dr. John Andler, he's famous for the research on guppies and their adaptations. And I'll read what he says to make sure I get it exactly right. He says, natural selection must not be equated with evolution, though the two are intimately related. And he goes on to say, natural selection does not explain the origin of new variants, only the process of changes in their frequency. So evolution has to explain the origin of brand new features, such as feathers where there weren't before, muscles where there weren't before, and that sort of thing. And natural selection does not create anything. So to say natural selection is the same as evolution is quite misleading.
But we're told a lot that this is natural selection, this is what natural selection's done, and it is an evidence for evolution. So what's happening there?
Well, there are lots of examples of natural selection, but none of them create any new features. Natural selection can favour a creature which has features which help it to reproduce and produce more offspring, and then its features then passed on to more offspring, and they propagate through the population. And this is what natural selection does. But it doesn't explain the origin of the features. The only thing that explains that is mutation. So they're actually leaving this out. Mutations, the only game in town. So what are mutations? They're accidental mistakes in copying the information from one generation to the next, mistakes in the genes, the genetic information. And that's the only mechanism they have to create new features. And I think the reason they don't talk about it much, almost nothing in many of the textbooks, is that they recognise that students will see that mutations aren't up to the job. So they just downplay mutations and talk about natural selection.
So natural selection is a real process. It does things, but it doesn't produce the type of change needed for evolution.
That's correct.